Welcome back. Since the start of the federal election campaign, the group Equal Voices has been tracking how many female candidates are running. As of last week, about 31% of all candidates were women. But when it comes to this issue, one province stands above the rest. And guess where it is? It's right here in BC. We have the largest percentage of female candidates in the country. And joining us now to tell us why that is Grace Lohr of the group Equal Voices. Thanks for being with us, Grace.
Thanks for having me.
So I find this whole story a little bit discouraging, but there is a little bit of hope, given that BC is now leading the country in female candidates. So what percentage of women are running here?
Yeah, so BC is certainly leading the pack, and Equal Voice BC is thrilled about that. We're at about 37%, just under, and that's compared to about 31% nationally. So we are ahead of the pack. But it is important to note that we're actually behind where we were in 2011. So while it's a bit of a good news story, there's certainly something to be discouraged about there.
Right. Now, we're looking at some statistics from the last election where we're breaking down the Liberals, the Greens, the NDP, and the Conservative. Yes. You can see that the Conservatives kind of fell behind in the last election as far as female candidates go. How are they doing this time? Let's take a look. Oh, they're falling even further behind. So why do you think that is?
Well, it's important to note that the Conservatives have 30% of their candidates are women in BC, compared to 19% nationally. So BC
19% nationally?
Yes.
Wow, that's not good.
Notably higher in BC. So we are the only province that has more than 30% women for all of the parties.
And do you find that the parties have different approaches to courting or encouraging women to run for their parties?
Well, certainly we do see variation in the number of women running for the different parties, and this is notable particularly nationally as opposed to provincially. However, at Equal Voice, we really want to see at least 40% of candidates in all parties be women. That's really how we're going to make some progress as far as getting more women elected.
And so how do we do that? This is the eternal question, isn't it?
Yes. Well, certainly one thing that is true is that women are more likely to run for politics when they're asked, and they need to be asked more often than men. That's what the research tells us. So at Equal Voice, we want women to be her, we want people to support her and celebrate her. We need to support the women who are running, we need to celebrate women who make that contribution. Women are making contributions in all parts of life in Canada, and we need to seek out those women, and the parties need to seek out those women to make that jump into politics. It's for the betterment of democracy and politics and policy across the whole country.
You mentioned the goal being 40% across the board. I would like to see 50%, given that half of us are women.
Yes, we would too.
But let's talk about the practicalities. I have a young family. Speaking, from my personal perspective, although politics intrigues me and I love following politics, actually running as a political candidate would be almost impossible for me due to my family, and traveling and the amount of hours and all of that. It's a difficult undertaking for a lot of women to make.
Absolutely, and I have a young daughter as well, and that's certainly something that I think about as someone who's studying this issue. And indeed, in my research, that is what women have told me, is that is a real barrier to entering politics. So again, we need to seek out those women, because women are making a contribution in politics, and we need to talk to them about how they can make that same difference in politics by participating. Certainly there are barriers there, but there is a real need, and I think that for a lot of women who are already really active in life in Canada and making a contribution, it's clear that politics can be a route to make change too.
Absolutely. So do you think that the structure of how our political system is made today is a little bit antiquated? Do you think that, requiring people to travel across the country to go to Ottawa to represent it, maybe we need to update things by telecommuting, or you can have your Skype there in the House of Commons, or are there ways that we could facilitate it so that it would be more accessible to more people?
Yes, certainly. And those are some unique issues for Canada in particular, given the size of the country. As far as traveling from some ridings to Ottawa, it's very far, all the more challenging with a young family. But, there are men in politics with young families too. So we do need to open this up. We do need to make legislatures more livable. And also the tone of politics is something that we hear a lot about from women who are discouraged from entering politics, is the aggressiveness, is the combativeness. It does deter women. And by having more women in politics, I actually think that those things about politics would change.
I think so too. Well, Grace, fascinating topic. I think it's a really important one to keep discussing. Thanks so much for being with us this afternoon.
Thanks so much. And for anyone who wants to follow us tracking the numbers, at Equal Voice BC for our Twitter handle, and you can see how the parties do as we go forward.
I will follow you starting in the commercial break. Thanks so much,
Thanks so
Grace.
much.
All
okay.
right.